All right. Hello and good evening, everyone, ramblers all, and welcome back to the Ramblestream for the 68th episode of the Ramblestream. Kind of amazing. Every time I add another number to that we're still doing this. Nobody's called Uncle yet, or maybe somebody has and we don't know. Doesn't matter. I haven't called Uncle yet. Uncle Voodoo's on though. Audio echo. Hold on. The alarm just went off. Hold on. Let's see if we can explain the echo. Is there an echo? Are you playing this in two locations? Sound 5x5 from Tom Lathrop. Audio echo though from Multifarious. Multifarious, make sure you're not listening to it from multiple devices. No echo from Rev Free Moto. Awesome. Drake Beast is excited for my second episode. I'm reading the comments from the back first. Maybe we should do that instead. No, we'll go from the beginning. Because you got to give Tom his cred. He's got the first at 5:20. He was on early. Nobody's beating that. Anyway, good evening. Welcome to a balmy 50-degree Goshen, Indiana in early February. Everything's thawed out. It was sunny today. It was really nice. So great day to ride your bike if you're up in the upper Midwest. Foggy in the morning as it is, but a fantastic day. I've been very, very busy, but good to slow down a little bit and enjoy a libation with some fellow ramblers. So without further ado, welcome. And I always do this for folks that are new because I think there are more people. I know we have 50 people on right now. There are more people watching than comment. And there are plenty of new faces that do not identify themselves, which is perfectly okay. But I'll put out my plea here. If you're new to the Ramblestream, welcome. And it's like the fifth time I said that. Welcome. Give us a comment. Comments are how we interact here. I talk, you comment, and I try and answer your questions or respond to your comment. Let's say that. But the formula: give us your name, where you're viewing from, what you ramble with. That's what I've been saying. What you ramble with. So that if you don't have a motorcycle, if it's a automobile, that's fine too. An airplane. Tell us what you ramble with. If it is a motorcycle, tell us what kind it is. And if it's a special kind of motorcycle that's a Janus, tell us what the model and serial number are. And last but not least, tell us what you are sipping on this good evening. I am Richard Worsham. I'm sipping. I'm Richard. I am in Goshen, Indiana, the location where Janus's motorcycles are made. I'm the fender machine. He's very courteous. The fender maker just turned off the fender machine because it's very loud. It's the shop name that we have named the planishing hammer is Satan's Machine Gun. Actually, Charlie takes the credit for that title, as with every piece of equipment in the fabrication shop and some other places, Charlie has labeled with the name of the machine. And even though he's gone, he's left an indelible mark on the shop because of that. Satan's Machine Gun has just been turned off, and I hope, unlike last week during the middle of this epic poem we were reading, when the air compressor cut on and it kind of distracted me, Brent's going to turn the air compressor off so we won't have to be distracted. Anyway, I'm in Goshen. I ride Halcyon 250 and a number 68 and a Kawasaki KLR 650 second gen, first year of the second gen. So it's a 09 650 single carbureted, just a giant Janus, but kind of ugly. That's the KLR way. And I am sipping on once again on some Wolfert Halcyon Reserve starter. Very good, very tasty. A little water goes a long way. A little branch water with your bourbon or your whiskey. I should put a plug in for Wolfert. You can buy this from Wolfert. They're out on the West Coast, and they partnered with us. It's a very small craft distillery with a beautiful bottle. So buy yourself a Halcyon Reserve. And anyway, I'm sitting here. It's been a busy day, but it's a pleasure, as I said, to hang out with you all. We'll dig into some comments. We got Tom, as I said, on number 1. Burlington, Wisconsin, Griffin 250, 149, Halcyon 250, 1008, seltzer water. Riggedy Alps, another friend of the stream. Hello from Massachusetts, celebrating my 1 year of 450 234 ownership with a live Ramblestream and a birch beer. Cheyenne's been a great bike with many rides completed and many more to go. Cheers. Fantastic. And a y'all from the Yankee, Massachusetts. Great. Love it. Love it. Confed Yank, not a Yankee. Well, maybe he's partly Yankee, I guess, but he's from North Carolina. 100th anniversary Road King. Charles McGahagan, Olaf from Maryland's Eastern Shore, rambling with Halcyon 251 454 and Phoenix number 30. Griffin 450 number 4 is in my dreams. Drinking H2O. Well, we're going to talk about a little bit about the preparation for that. Jordy Field, Jordy Forest, Lake Forest, Illinois, 450 44, sipping on a Pilsner beer. Deschutes. Descent. Let's hear about new bike parts. Luggage rack for the seat extender from the frame. Well, let me just go ahead and luggage racks for the seat extender. Oh, luggage rack. Yes, luggage racks. Those are in production on the 450 already, I believe, Jordy. Explain a little more. I do owe, Jordy has been asking for an update on all the updates. Update. And I owe you one, Jordy. Tonight will be kind of a partial one because we're talking about tooling. But it's in the back of my mind. We will get to a full kind of breakdown. Right now, a lot of the updates we're doing are a lot of things that you should be, as customers, extremely excited about, but they aren't as dramatic because they're kind of behind the scenes improvements that we're doing for the bike. Lots of little, like the side stand is being upgraded. And maybe if you're an existing customer, it won't affect you, and then other ones are things that are just kind of overall improvements. That said, we have a lot of add-ons and upgrades that you can buy that we are working on. But tonight is not dedicated to that. But I will get to there. I will get there. Jordy, I mean it when I say that's always in the back of my mind. We got to do that. So we will. Steve Q. Howdy from Hurst, Texas, riding Halcyon 250 988 and a 450 304, drinking root beer. Lots of birch beers and root beers. Oh, we've got a real one there with Jordy. In an ARB, a fellow ham on Michiana, Halcyon 450 331 and 250 569, red wine. Good to see you, my friend. Rev Free Moto. Good evening, all. Jonathan here from Troy, Virginia. Waiting on delivery of Halcyon 450 341 pewter with black and maroon pinstripe. And also, I ride a Harley Lowrider ST. Ice water for me tonight. Wonderful. Motard. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Yamaha FC6 and Griffin 250 number 164 are sipping a strange carbonated matcha soda. That does sound strange. Fast approaching the first oil change and can feel the engine getting stronger and transmission smoother. It's a fun time to have a Janus when you're breaking it in. They really do. They go through such growing pain. Well, I hope not growing pains, but they grow. They change a lot in the first. I would say the 250 you'll really notice it 1,500 to 2,000 miles, and the 450 maybe even up to the 2,000 or 2,500 mile mark. You'll really notice the bike smoothing out. Semtech 57. Hey all, John here in Rancho Cucamonga with Halcyon 250 1148 Casimir. Just water today. Lots of waters. Good for you all, or not, depending on how you. I'll be drinking water soon. It's the great, as we call it, the great cut, the great fast coming up. Multifarious Halcyon 250 number 1067 Kingfisher. Drinking cherry Coke Zero in Nebraska, which is back to being real cold. Oh, you're all are getting the cold. Well, we're going to probably get that next. I think it's coming our way. If you're not aware, I don't actually have off the top of my head what Ramblestream it was, but we featured Multifarious on a recent Ramblestream and talked about his fishing and bikes and the name of his bike. I'm not organized enough to know what Ramblestream it was, but watch them all and you'll catch it. It was a really fun conversation. We do have guests on the Ramblestream. If you're interested, I have a little form you can sign up below. I think a lot of y'all are perfectly fine just participating in the comments, but if you're interested, I'd love to have you on the Ramblestream. Anyway, I got to finish up the comment. He's drinking cherry Coke Zero in Nebraska, which is back to being okay. Yeah, blah blah blah. He said he ran the bike for a bit yesterday, but haven't ridden it yet this year. Great. Jeff is on 68 Honda Irandacoy, New York. Jeff Blind, our own shop manager down here at TT, Elkhart, Indiana. Janus Fab Shop Monkey, owning a Halcyon 250 87. Warm today. Took a Griffin 250 out for lunchtime spin. Drinking Dr. Pepper. Yeah, Monkey. Drake B, still at work, but tuning in. Much excited. Great. Scott Spence up in Elkhart. Halcyon 250 number 212. Halcyon 450 number 78. And a 74 Bonneville here from Elkhart. Sipping on rum and Coke. That's only a half an hour north of here. Richard, oh, that's me. Richard Worsham. I commented. I thought I was commenting on this through my software, and I was on the YouTube page because I always check to make sure that it's actually playing. Drake B says, hello from Indianapolis, Indiana. 1982 Honda CB900F Super Sport, sipping on Dr. Pepper. Dave Bowen, dear friend of the stream, hanging out with 450 in number 14 in snowy Seattle, hunkering down by the fire with a dog and a fuzzy orange juice. Nice. Good to see you, Dave. Gary Smith, another one. East Lansing, Halcyon 50 number 11, 250 number 79, 450 number 3, Phoenix 250 number 79, 1972 Triumph Trident, 80 Honda CM200, 1990 HD 83 Sportster, and 2-year-olds, a 2015 Tourist and a 2017 Gear Up. Sipping on a Diet Dr. Pepper. I hope that retirement is treating you well, Gary, and that you're enjoying your time. You're always more than welcome back here at the shop, as you know, if you take a fancy for a nice long ride here as it warms up. Jeff Kelly, what are Ramblers paying to insure a Halcyon 250? That's a really good question. And I'm sure that there'll be some comments. I'm not sure right now what folks are paying, but if you have an answer to that, post it up in the comments. Simtech57, has anyone installed any aux lights at all? I have a highway bars with leg guards on my 250, but would like some more light down low experiences. I'll speak to that a little bit. I got time. I've run aux lights on a 250, and I went to this site called, what is it called? Super Bright LEDs. I think that's the name of the website. And they sell a number of different, very affordable aux lights for ATVs, motorcycles, and other stuff. And I got these little tiny, like they were like this big, and they're very affordable and good quality. I mean, relatively good quality for the price. And I found clamps that would bolt onto the highway bars. And I think when I rode cross country, I was running those aux lights. If I wasn't, I've done some long distance riding with them, and I'm a big fan of extra lights. And so yes, they're fantastic, especially if you get an LED set of small ones. You'd be amazed at how much extra light they shine, especially if they're down low. And the benefit of having lower lights is that it casts, you can see a little bit more in 3D because the lights are shining from a different angle from your headlight. And so you get a little bit more perspective on what's on the road, and you can angle your right light, which I like to do, more into the side of the road, which if you're looking for wildlife or obstacles, it's really handy. And you can kind of cant the other one so that it's not quite in cars' lights. I also run some rather nice Denali's on my KLR. And same thing, those are nice because they're dimmable. So when you hit the high beam, they actually get brighter. And when you and again, it just adds a lot more visibility for oncoming traffic. One of the upgrades that I'm interested in offering for all of our models is not stock, but standard Janus aux lights. And I'd love to do like your headlight with side lights. I think it'd be really neat. Or what would also be really cool would be another headlight located off the highway bar, and maybe do that one in yellow. Or you could have the option of doing it in yellow. I think it'd be really cool, just aesthetically, but also add a kind of rally extra lighting. And it does present a more of a thing. When people see that coming, they think, what's that? So yeah, great question. Uncle Voodoo, peace from Buena Vista, Virginia. Getting Bimble, Halcyon 250, 465 ready for Blue Ridge Parkway and St. Mary's Wilderness run tomorrow. St. Mary's Wilderness, fantastic. That's my neck of the woods. So please give us a report back. And if you don't know, there's an owners forum on our website. Post up. It's got a section for ride reports. Ride reports are, I think, a really key ingredient to any good motorcycle or any kind of rambling activity forum. Rambling often has a forum, especially I'm really active in sailing forums for dinghy cruising, and the reports that they come back with. There's actually the Dinghy Cruising Association has a magazine, and basically the whole magazine is sailing reports, and they're just they inspire you to do different things. So one of the best things that you all can do is ramblers is contribute back to the community by putting out ride reports. And so I really thank all of you all that have already done that. Innate RAB says, that's it, Richard. The alarm just went off. And I'm not sure what that means, but maybe you heard something. This time for the Ramblestream. Audio echo. We think we've worked through this. I hope. Thank you all for the audio help. John Garnt says, Southeast Kansas, Halcyon 450 number 356 was delivered to me in the past week. Took her out yesterday for 152-mile jaunt. So far, excellent. Bloody Marys. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Cheers. Cheers. We'll leave that comment for now, and we'll do our poem. So if you remember, last week we read the first of two poems by Wendell Berry, a favorite here on the Ramblestream. That one was titled July 1773. If you weren't on, this is a lovely letterpress printed book, The Kentucky River, two poems by Wendell Berry. And I got some additional information. My father watches the stream too. He's probably on. He's a lurker. But he said, yes, I have met Wendell Berry. And he did work with Gray Zeitz, the printer of this. He had some projects that he was trying to get printed. I don't know if he actually printed them with Gray Zeitz or not, but I was familiar with those characters when he lived in Kentucky, where my mother is from and where they met. And he had a houseboat on the Kentucky River. So this was my Christmas present from my father, and it's very, I'm sure, very dear to him. So it's a two-part poem. The first one is about this family, the McAfee brothers, and their 1773 expedition to Kentucky. Wendell Berry is a farmer and poet of that country, and he also is famous for his sort of different take on modernity and technology, and so of course he's going to have one written in the modern time and kind of commenting on the changes. So we're going to read that now. Second part. If you want to hear me read the first part, which was really fun to read, I have to say, it was really, really great. Go back to Ramblestream number 67. Handset letterpress type. You can see the other page coming through. This is a lead type that's been handset pressed into the paper. January 1975. Another rainy winter, the third one in a row. Cattle stand in mud. Fog rises in rain. The old river, maker of the hills, runs muddy, swollen, day after day. All here is shaped by search, water finding its way. The valley keeps the shape of the escape of water. Moving water carved it in violence so long and slow it was gentle. It hollowed the long main stem of the valley, drew its fingers down tributaries and coves, and did it all in little displacements of stone, little shifts and slips, nudgings, wedgings of frozen soil, meltings. And all the while, the forest stood unmoved on the slopes. Canebrake grew to the water's edge. Speckled bass soared in pools clear as the sky. Millions of years it worked at this great work, missing nothing, meticulous and patient as a colony of ants. It worked like a mind, a godly fathering and mothering mind, teaching its creatures how to grow. In flood, it bore the fullness of the forest floor and left it on the bottomlands downstream, richness to make myth behind us. So great it was, so soon destroyed. It was old light the currents bore, old time itself, the past more vital and complete than myth or memory, laid down to bless the fields. And then we cut the trees, opened the mountainsides for coal, cast the mountains down into the valleys, and so destroyed the ancient light of the ground, time gone into the power to come again. That history is the undoing of light, days turned against days. The river has become the gut of greed. Human evil moves in its currents now, each rise a kind of weapon, the old clarity gone. Fini. And Wendell Berry is no doomer, so it's not a totally pessimistic take he has on things, but he's willing to criticize, call it what we're up to, as I think probably all ramblers are. No matter it's beyond politics. When we look around us and we just look at what's changed, what changes, and when you take that ride the second time, or 10 years later, or maybe 40 years later, you go back to the same place. It's a little different, and oftentimes it's a loss, but maybe a gain somehow in a different way. Anyway, cheers. Drake B says, excited for my second episode. All right. Well, it is now. Oh, we got time. We'll do a couple more comments. Russell Peters. Detlef 86, 450 Owensboro, Kentucky. A good Kentuckian here. We got to call that one out. Earl Grey, nice 70-degree day of great rambling. Nice, 70 degrees. Did you go on any rides today, Russell? I would take it you did on all your motorcycles. Take a pic. Gary says, the first messages you should read is from the back to first. Make sure that the volume and everything is good. Then go back to the top. I do that, Gary. I usually go and try and check the most recent comments on the sound. And I really, as I always say, I really appreciate y'all's feedback. Robert Benstead. Hey, Bob, Sturgis, South Dakota, a good old Coke. Good to see you. Looking forward to seeing you again this summer. Charles Selman, greetings from San Francisco. Griffin 250, number 124. Oh, and by the way, Bob, I got news today that for the first time ever, is there going to be a Harley dealership selling motorcycles in Sturgis? Tell us about that news. I know that's a first. There has never actually been a Harley Davidson dealership in Sturgis selling motorcycles. Well, so I'm curious what the gossip is on that from the Indian dealership. Charles Selman, greetings from San Francisco. Griffin 250, number 124 and 82. Sticking to Halcyon 20 today. I see H water today. Drake B, it was really nice today. Jealous for those that were able to get it today. Well, soon enough, Drake. Racing the Sun, hello. Halcyon 450, number 120 and 121. Founders Mortal Bloom IPA. Good to see you again in the last couple of days. It was good hanging out with y'all. looking forward to maybe seeing you all again soon with a motorcycle in tow. David Dixon, Halcyon 450 number 266, Cato, Wisconsin, a bottle of Moosehead. I was out for a while this afternoon going back and forth across my driveway with the snowblower. At least it was kind of handlebars, dreaming of spring. Different kind of rambling, right? Actually, one of the YouTubers I follow, he does snow. He lives in a very snow-laden area, and he does a live stream from his snowblower, or it's like a really big one. He's inside a cab, but it's fun because he'll ramble when he's in the snowblower. So it's like kind of like mowing your grass is definitely, I would say 100% a rambling, especially if you, like me, I grew up on a many acres where there was a lot of mowing that had to happen every week, and you get out and you mow, and it's this like very zen activity, especially when it comes to patterns. The only thing that interrupts the pattern of your zen is when you hit a yellow jacket nest. I know that I can remember the sound of that one where you hit the lawnmower cuts off and you hear yelling. So snow blowing. I think it might be rambling. You might have done it. Charles McGahagan, don't worry, the cold is coming back through next week. Yes. Michael Webster, howdy from Michigan, and thinking about seeing the trade-in info on a Griffin. Great. I'm sure we'll have that for you soon. Barb Coos is on. Halcyon 450 278 here, celebrating my birthday with you all. Sipping on cranberry cider in Oregon. Happy birthday, Barb. David Watkins, greetings from North Carolina, in West Virginia. Delivered last Friday. Halcyon 222, HC 222, HD, and he also has a Harley-Davidson Tri-Glide, an Indian Chieftain Dark Horse. Sipping on. Well, congratulations, Halcyon. Well, congrats on the bike. Tell us more about what model it is. Keith Haywood's on 706 in New York. Are you sipping on what is it you drink? Red wine, if I remember correctly. And at ARB, happy birthday to Barb. Top Banana, Brent, who just cut off the vendor machine, says, Brent, Phoenix number 34. Cheers all. Good to see you, Brent. Old School is on. He's woken up for his nap in time for the Ramblestream. Guten Tag, Old School. Halcyon 250 number 994. Buffalo, New York, raining now. Not good two-wheel weather for this 70-year-old. Chocolate milk with my dinner. And just started the Rolling Stones movie and now on pause. Oh, nice. Good to see Old School. Michael says riding a 2008 KTM 990 Adventure. Very nice. Cool bike. I hear maybe good things about KTM coming back. Good to see. Jeff Hoekstra from Facebook, Cedar Lake, Indiana, Halcyon 250 number 63, also sipping on a Halcyon Reserve 23, enjoying the show. Cheers. Dick Dressler, aka Madcap from Texas Hill Country, Halcyon 450 number 357, Kyle delivered 2 days ago. Awesome. Honda XL 250 originally purchased 53 years ago. Nice. Sipping on lemon ginger tea. Very nice. That's wonderful. And welcome to the stream. I think you've been on the stream maybe before, but congratulations on the delivery of your motorcycle, your Janus. Old School says, and suggest y'all read Richard's book for rambling down the road. Good companion of insights, suggestions, and tidbits. Boom. Jordy says, pillion seat is an extension from the front frame. Oh, from the frame, so a second person isn't shaken. I remember you saying a rack will bolt to the 450 Type 1 book rack. Yes. Oh, yeah. You're talking about the non-pillion seat book rack, which is in production. They're making it right now. I think we're a little behind on it, but there have been some issues as we transition from different purchasing agents, but it's in the works, and it'll be out, and it's going to be awesome. I mean, it'll be awesome if you don't want your stuff, if you don't mind your stuff being shaken up. If you want your stuff to not be shaken up, get our cargo rack. But the book rack attaches directly to the rear fender, and it looks really very similar to the 250. And Jordy, I'll have more updates for you. Drew says, Indiana 04 V-Star, Miller Lite. Do you still do tours of factory? Yes, we do. Absolutely. And it's best if you schedule them in advance, but if you come here between 9 o'clock and 5 p.m., you can probably just show up. But we recommend you give us a call ahead of time. We'd love it. That's what we do is tours. We are nothing without customers coming through the factory. Old School says, my ride is named Althea. Yes, that's right. Awesome. Paul Ram on Halcyon 250, number 542, Miller High Life, Indy area. I don't recognize the name. You may be on the stream before, but welcome for first post. And Drew says, do you offer the 450 with a kickstart? We do not. Unfortunately, the 450 power plant does not come with a kickstart. It would be better if it did, I think, but we can't have everything. Some people have tried working on it. It's pretty challenging to actually engineer that back into it. But as KLR proved in 1987, modern thumper motorcycle does not need a kickstart. I don't think any KLR owners complain about the fact that they don't have a kickstart. You can always make it work. Rev Free Moto says, with Allstate, my Halcyon 450, this is an answer to insurance. My Halcyon 450 and Harley Lowrider ST is costing about $465 a year for both. I think that reflects what I find with my bikes. I've never had any trouble or insuring my Janus or KLRs or whatever, or vintage bikes. Yeah. If you do have issues, go to a different agent. If they say, it's not in our database, we're in everybody's database. It's just a glitch. So we've been doing this long enough. There are some insurance companies that are a pain to work with. And if you give us a call, we can help you out with that. We know the ones that work best. Jordy says, I pay about $400 a year. Gary says, retirement is great. Buying a Sprinter 2500 all-wheel drive this week and converting it to my motorcycle base camp for rambling. Fantastic. That's great. So you're going to get the Sprinter. We're big fans of the Ford Transit here at Janus just because of the ease of repair, but we put a lot of miles on ours. The Sprinters I've heard good things about. Old School says, American Modern insures classic bikes and cars. They consider Janus a classic. $250 for the year for the max. Everything, liability, collision, all the goods. My comprehensive, $50 and liability. Wow, there you go. That's a good deal from Old School. Brian Smith says, buy premium on the Griffin 250 is $178 through Geico, but I do have a clean driving record and costs are pretty low in West Virginia. Great place to live if you want to stretch a dollar. There you go. Eddie from New Jersey, 97 Heritage Softail Classic, 21 Halcyon 250, JM 670, stage 4 plus, 23 Honda Trail 125, 23 Honda Monkey 125, and a 79 8/80 Puch Maxi. Nice. Oh, two 79 and an 80 Puch Maxi. Eddie, way to go. That's you're speaking my language with the Puch Maxi. Sipping on some tea. Old School says $100. Oh, this is a continuation from his previous comment. Folks, those are prices out of early 70s when I learned to ride at 17 years old. Check them out of Boston. Great customer service. Awesome. Thank you, Old School. Keith says, when I added my 250 to my Allstate policy with my two Triumphs, there was no cost increase. They recognize I can only ride one at a time, I guess. Sipping Tullamore Dew. Oh, a little different beverage this evening. All right, we're at the little past the half hour mark, so we need to move on with our program. We'll come back to the comments. Mark the comments so I know how to get back to it. Okay, so tonight I wanted to talk just a little bit about something that we're working on really hard right now. But first, I also wanted to share, we got a lot to cover. I wanted to share an article that, and I might just, should I read it? Do I have time? I got time. We're going to read it. This is an article that just came out like a week or so ago on ADV Rider. And I'm going to try and just share the screen, but I am going to read it because I think it's worth reading. Worth sharing at least. There we go. Hard truth. Your anti-small bike arguments are BS. So I'm going to read this to y'all. The motorcycle world is a humorous place, one where the ability of a motorcyclist is often not proportional to the size of the motorcycle they ride. Indeed, it is often just the opposite. I believe that old goat Polonius had it mostly correct in Hamlet, when he told his son Laertes, "To thine own self be true." The average bloke should be allowed, nay, encouraged, to buy the motorbike they want, because that is the only way they will be happy with their purchase. And yet I believe that many motorcyclists would in fact be happier if they abandoned their self-inflicted belief that they require a large, heavy motorbike and instead embrace the fun and easy riding of a smaller machine. But to do that, they will have to leave the following misconceptions behind. First one, I need a bigger bike because the motorway is the only route out of town. I have ridden in and out of some of the planet's largest cities on a motorcycle and in automobiles of all sizes. I've always been able to find smaller roads to get out of town, roads that would be fine on a small motorcycle. Indeed, many of the busier roads are so gridlocked that a smaller motorbike has an advantage, as it can cut between cars and lorries more easily. If you do not think there are appropriate roads for leaving town on a small machine, you just are not looking hard enough. In fact, this is one of the greatest benefits of having a small bike. Riding at a slower pace forces you off the beaten path. Sometimes the routes you discover will become favorite roads no matter what size motorcycle you are riding. 2, I need a bigger bike because I'm a bloke. I'm a big bloke. Well, I consider myself to be a fairly big bloke at 6'6". First off, let me point out that this seems to be a male-only statement. I have never heard a female rider say she needs a big bike because she's a bigger woman. But I can see your point. I'm a large man myself, but I've done many tours, some at quite long distances, on machines smaller than 500cc. I know fellows like Ed March or Nathan Millward or Simon Gandolfini have gone even greater distances on bikes much smaller than mine. It is indeed true that some long-shanked riders do well on a bike with longer travel suspension. However, the plea for a larger bike often comes from someone who would do well to change their lifestyle and reduce their weight. There is no judgment here. I do not resemble Twiggy, but I also realize the answer is to do something about my fitness and drop a stone or two, not throw more money at a bigger bike. 3, I need a bigger bike because I need to cover long distances. This is not as cut and dry as it appears at first. ADV rider Nick Adams has noted that when he is riding his newer machines, he covers the same distance in the same time as he does with his old, not so fast Moto Guzzi Eldorado. Ooh, good choice. The reality is that a bike traveling at grossly extra legal speed on a fast-moving motorway can indeed cover mileage faster than a smaller bike going slower on a less direct secondary road. However, if you are riding the speed limit, things even out much more closely, especially if you cut your time at petrol stations and other stops to a minimum on the small bike. And did you buy that big bike for the thrill of riding multi-lane tarmac? I think not. The back roads are the point anyway. And besides, you jolly well can cover long distances on a small bike. Lois Price rode an XT225 from Alaska to Argentina for her first book and took an XT250 from London to Cape Town for her second book. ADV riders, the Bear, did his 1970s RTW journey around the world journey on a Honda XL 250. And of course, there are the fellows I mentioned in the previous point, Ed March and Nathan Millward and Simon Gandolfini, and many, many others. If you've got the time to travel, which is the point of rambling, a small bike will get you there. And it is not better to be traveling on a small bike than slaving, and is it not better to be traveling on a small bike than slaving out the hours at the office to pay for a big bike dreaming of travel instead of actually doing it? So true. That's a practical point, folks. That's a very practical. It's true of so many sailboats as well. People that spend so much money on these giant boats that sit in the slip the whole time. Number 4, I need a bigger bike to haul my stuff. No, you do not. You need to learn to bring less stuff unless you're legitimately living off the bike for years on end. And even then, consider that YouTuber Itchy Boots can travel for months on a CRF 300L. If she can, so can you. Number 5, I need a bigger bike because I want to haul a passenger. Yes, a bigger motor and larger motorcycle makes it a lot easier to haul a pillion. But you can haul a passenger on a 250 or even smaller bike if you need to. Travel to developing countries and you will see whole families on small motorcycles. I'm not saying this is a good idea, but it shows that if the rider has sufficient skill, then just about any motorcycle can haul a load. I think that's one where sometimes it does take a bigger bike if you want to haul two people. I've found that that's a limiting factor with smaller bikes to really legitimately travel distance. Around town, a 250 is perfectly fine. But yeah, summary. If you want a bigger bike, you can afford it. Why not buy it? I have observed that most riders just want the motorbike they want and will be unhappy otherwise, which is, in my opinion, speaking as Richard, perfectly okay, as I've said repeatedly. But back to the text. However, if you are considering what your options are, ask yourself if you've been making the excuses I have mentioned here. Perhaps you should reconsider your choice and buy a smaller machine. Agree or disagree? Controversial opinion, but that's the Janus take on it. All right. I haven't eaten up all my time. We're going to talk about tooling here. All right. I'll just start off just talking about tooling in general. Tooling is something I'm sure many of you all are familiar with the concept of what tooling is. It goes by many names. Tooling, jigs, fixtures, machine tools. There's a number of different ways of talking about what we mean by when we say tooling. But the word tooling has been really confusing to me for a long time, because I'm like, well, it's tooling. Why is it called tooling? You have tools. What is tooling? And then I was thinking over the weekend, but it's always good when I can post these ramble streams on Friday evening, like get them prepped and posted, because then it gives me the weekend to think about what I'm going to talk about. Sometimes I don't have the time, but this weekend I did. And I was thinking about what tooling is. And I was thinking, when we think about manufacturing, it's as you probably are aware, tooling is a thing that holds various things such that they can be made into a bigger thing. With that's like the basic description of tooling. Then I was thinking about my table saw is tooling, because it holds the material in such a way that I can repeatedly make the same thing. I can make the same cut every single time, or multiple cuts at different, but it's predictable. And that's also, I think, something that's really integral to tooling. But then I was thinking about it, I was like, well, your drill is also tooling, because if you think about what a drill is, it's a machine that holds a bit in such a way that the motor can power it, and that you can hold it and you can predictably drill the same hole every single time. And then I was thinking, well, your pencil is tooling. It holds the lead so that you can predictably. And then basically where you, of course, obviously end up is that tooling is a tool. That's what tools are. It's a thing that it makes a how do I say this? It's a thing. I'm using that as a very specific way that allows us to have an replicable result in something that we're making, whether it's writing a book or cutting a board or welding two pieces of metal together or building a motorcycle. And then I started thinking, as soon as I started thinking about tooling, I realized that everything we do at Janus Motorcycles is tooling. And that goes back in some ways maybe to the difference between custom motorcycles and production motorcycles. Even custom motorcycles, you still have to use tools. But when it gets to be production, you're trying to make something that's the same. And the reason we make it is the same is not so that they're bland and boring and all the same, but rather so that we can arrive at a product that does what we want it to do, and it's predictable. And then when we deliver it to you, that you can expect that what it delivers is what you expect. And then if you have an owner's manual, the owner's manual will tell you how to work on it. And if you need to do the valves, this is the way you do it. That's a really long way of explaining it. Anyway, I went around the shop today and was just talking with some of the guys down here at the fabrication shop. And I just said, tell me a little bit about tooling, like in your experience. And, I know a little bit about it from, well, more than a little bit. But tell me about maybe because a lot of these guys that work here at Janus, they have a lot of previous experience with tooling. Jeff, who's on the stream, and Neil, who may be on the stream watching, have a lot of previous experience. Jeff ran his own business making parts for trucks and had to use tooling. And so anyway, some thoughts from them on tooling. And I think the most important one Jeff listed first is that the part that you get, the part that's the result of your work is only as good as your tooling. And I think that is, it's like the data that you put in, the data that you get out is only as good as the data you put in terms of a kind of an information technology standpoint. But absolutely in a manufacturing setting, the part that you get out, the product of your work is only as good as your tooling. Step one, baseline with tooling. And then the other one that we were kind of talking about a little bit is when you're making tooling, and in case I haven't described it, like tooling is some sort of fixture that holds things when you're making it so that you can be exact. Like if you're a leather maker, maybe you have one of those, a leather worker, one of those vices that holds the leather while you're stitching it. It just allows you to do your work. And it can also, if you don't have tooling and you don't know how to make something and you're trying it for the first time with no experience, oftentimes we can give up because we don't realize that there's this simple thing. There's a way that's been figured out to do that, to hold it for you, or to make that job easier. That if you'd had that, you would be excited and making great things. Oftentimes when I set out on a project, I don't have the right tooling, and that's, I think, definitely true of Janus Motorcycles. When we started, we had no idea all the different things that were right. Maybe in some cases right in front of our nose. In other cases, we had to really do this for 10 years to figure it out. But it's always good to pause and think, how have other people done this? And what is the tooling? In some ways, history is our tooling for the future. It tells us if we set it up right, that we can expect this given outcome from it. Anyway, another point that the guys were saying is you only want to constrain key points in your tooling. So if you think about this from a manufacturing standpoint, you don't want to make, nothing is perfect in this world. And you have to allow for tolerances and things to not be perfect. And the challenge when you're making something is you want to define what is critical and what is not. And since you can't control the universe, you want to focus only on the things that are important. So you want to constrain your tooling. So what I mean by constrain is you want the parts where it has to be perfect. It only has to be perfect in like the fewest number of places possible. So when you're making tooling, you want it to be as loose as possible, except for the places where it matters. So if, let's say, you're making a swing arm for a motorcycle, the point where it pivots, you put all your attention into that, and you put all your attention into where the rear axle is, so that fits properly. And then, of course, everything else in between has to work and be there and have clearance off other parts, but it doesn't really matter. And so if you're making a part with multiple bends, you cannot constrain every single point. If you made a piece of tooling or a fixture that held your frame rails exactly, you'd never make a part, because you'd spend all your time on wasting your time making it perfect, when all that really matters is where it joins together and where these specific intersections are. So only constrain the key points. That's really hard to figure out where they are. That's the design and engineering part of it. And then tooling should compensate for the process is the next thing. Tooling needs to be, so what they mean by this is that oftentimes when you make something, when it's being made, it's not in the shape that it will be when it comes out. And so the goal of tooling is not to define, it is, but it's doing indirectly perfection or the goal. So let's say we're talking about something like Well, in a simple way, when you're talking about sawing something, the saw, like your table saw, when you set up your table saw to cut a board, you have to compensate for the kerf. Like the blade has a thickness, right? So you can't set it up necessarily to the stop, because it's going to be whatever the thickness of the blade is shorter. And it's much more important when you're thinking about welding, when you're dealing with a lot of heat on a complex weldment. Let's say we're talking swing arms, they're in my head. A swing arm, when you weld it, can't be the exact size that it's going to be, because it's going to move when it gets heated. And so you have to set up the jig. The setup may be different than the actual part, because when it was welded up, it changes shape. So tooling should compensate for the process is the next point there. And I think there's just three things that I thought really captured tooling. I thought we'd maybe look at some pictures from some of the tooling around the shop. I'll share those with you all here in a second here. If I can do that. So these are just some pieces. This is not a final piece of tooling. This is just these are two jigs that are they hold the frame rails for drilling. So in order to drill let me go back over to the here we go. When you're on a 450 chassis, which we make in-house, the seat pivot, and there's two other bungs on the frame that mount like your luggage rack. To drill those holes, they have to be very precise, very precise. And so we put those in our Bridgeport, which is a machine tool. A Bridgeport is a mill, basically a piece of tooling. And these hold them properly so that when you drill the hole, it's exactly the right place. Let's see. This is our current Halcyon 450 mainframe tooling. And this is something we did a video on this several years ago, working with Adam Diaz, and he developed this tooling. And really this tooling is still pretty rudimentary. It's kind of like prototype tooling, really. So we're working on improving that, and I'll show you some pictures of our improvement. It's on a table, and it has some limitations, which we'll get into, but you can see how it holds the different pieces of the rails of the frame together, and then they get final welded. This is some tooling that Brent uses to drill fenders. There's our Bridgeport. And so our Bridgeport, think about what tooling is. It's literally hold the part very precisely, and it can drill the part, and then it has a readout on the side that tells you where the blade, where the tool actually is exactly, which is what you need to machine a part. Machining is all about tooling. This is our press. This is a piece of tooling that Charlie designed, and it's really one of the other things that they said about tooling, the guys in the shop, was that the tooling needs to be adjustable because it needs to be able to compensate so that you can adjust on the fly. A different operator may have a different outcome with the same tooling, and so you need to be able to compensate for how one person uses it versus another. That's how precise it is. This is a piece of tooling that is used for pressing, and the way Charlie designed it, multiple different pieces of tooling can go into that and be used for different processes, many different processes that we use it for in the shop. This is our inspection table, which is also a piece of tooling. That little bracket there in the back holds the swing arm, and then we can measure it precisely. But again, it's holding the different parts together so that we can use our measuring instruments to determine if it meets our specification. We can actually manipulate it as well. Another piece of tooling. This is the Halcyon the Griffin 450's front swing arm. So the horizontal, the leading link tooling. One of the things that we've learned especially after using this prototype tooling for so long, is that the ideal piece of tooling uses no tools. Tooling uses no, so the operator, you don't want to be picking up wrenches. You want it to be all hands. They don't even have to take their weld gloves off when they're putting parts in. That's where your efficiency comes out and where you can make parts efficiently, which is what tooling does. All the way back to who's the Iceman that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, was using different kinds of tooling to do things. Griffin 450 fork vertical tooling. So you can kind of see the fork vertical shape there, and it's trying to constrain it as little as possible, but just to make sure that the critical parts are where they need to be. There's some old transom tooling in the shop. This is some very basic Halcyon or Griffin 450 exhaust tooling. We're working on this right now to make it more precise. And this is the new weld table. So Jeff designed this and built this tooling. And this is what he calls a rotisserie table. And this is a piece of tooling that allows, so it's an upgrade on this. So this is the old piece. It's on a table. He has to stand on a stool to use it. And here's the new one. And imagine what he can do with this, because this thing can rotate. So now the part that's in here, he can access. First of all, it's lower, but he can also rotate it so that he can weld it more of the part in the fixture more easily and more quickly. Another piece of tooling. We have tooling for everything. Another piece of tooling, more tooling. This is a coping fixture. So this allows us to cut a really accurate coped corner into a piece of tubing. Holds it exactly where it needs to be. This is a piece of tooling that Jeff built that helps us cut tube stock to an exact length. We can scribe it exactly where we want it to be. Very simple. Took him probably hours to build. This is Halcyon 450 highway bar tooling. Holds the parts where they need to be without using tools to put it in there. Oh, there you go. Richard Worsham in technology. So we have all of our tooling, and the important thing is that it helps us to create parts that are replicable, so that the end result is always the same coming out of this. And that even if you're working in a custom shop, is vital to making something that's consistently a good product. So little bit on tooling. If you have any questions, post them up. I'd love to see it. Jansen says, "What's up, everyone? Sipping on NA Blue Moon, rambling with a Tesla." So I've been giving Jansen a hard time because he has a Tesla. Jansen, if you notice the person in front of you in the Volkswagen waving at you on Saturday, that was me, because I noticed you. But Jansen has a Tesla, and I've been giving him a hard time because Teslas aren't very rambling. Sorry to insult any of you. Barb says, or Multifarious says, "Barb, Coos, happy birthday. How is Norali?" Or however I'm supposed to be pronouncing that. Happy birthday, Barb. Keith says, "Varied from Cabernet Sauvignon tonight." There you go. David says, "It's the Rambler edition, Duluth pack." Nice. Very nice. Oh, you got the Duluth pack bike. Neil says, "Goshen, Indiana, 78 Yamaha XS 400, 2011 versus 650, drinking Best Day Brewing Hazy NA." Neil is also our tooling expert. So if you have, I hope you all have added some comments on tooling here, guys. But Neil and Jeff were the two that I went to when I was asking questions about tooling. They're our tooling experts, as well as Chase. Vaughn Spruitt, welcome back to the stream. "My new Griffin 250 will be delivered tomorrow. I also ramble on my 12-foot Scamp." Oh, you have a Scamp? Okay. Vaughn, do you have any pictures of your Scamp? So a Scamp is one of my favorite boats. It's like a little tiny, what would you call it? Micro cruiser. Plywood built. Vaughn, you got to send me some pictures. That's awesome. David Watkins, 220 is the Rambler Edition Duluth pack. Yes, that's right. And by the way, Vaughn or David, that is also the bike that I did the California Ramble on. So all the videos we're posting about California Ramble, is that right? Yeah, I think I rode that bike. Yeah, 220. Lovely motorcycle. I had so much fun on that bike. Broke it in for you. And it's a fantastic machine. It's the first 450 with skirted fenders. Unless I'm way off the mark. Yeah, that is the one. That's the one. Dusty Frank says, hi, Richard and everyone. Middle Georgia, Halcyon 450, 283, Dr. Jones, sipping on a lemonade, just got in from a ride. Perfect rambling weather here in Georgia in the last couple of days. Wonderful, Dusty. And you got some nice weather. Barb says, thanks for the happy birthday wishes and cheers to all. Noralia is doing well, resting for the winter. Very much looking forward to spring and possibly a new to me addition to the stable. Interesting. Tell us more. Drake B says, I pay $144 a year for my Honda CB. Well, if it's an older one, that maybe isn't surprising. Eddie says, I pay $178 for a year for my Janus 250 insurance from Geico. Keep in mind, I have 3 cars and 6 bikes on my policy. Yeah. A lot of times you'll notice that your rate won't even go up. Rev Free says, this article is wonderful. If possible, would you consider placing the link in the comments? Yes. You know what? I will absolutely do that. And you know what I'll also say is, the guy who wrote that, if you click his name if you follow the link, he's got some other great articles on ADV Rider. ADV Rider is a great site for good motorcycle content. Jordy says, if you have a lathe, everything else related to it is tooling. Yep, it's true. Yeah, and I mean, there's so many pieces of, like even the things that you use to measure are tooling. And the way that you have to have a table that's flat and level and it doesn't, vibrate is all tooling. Absolutely. I am disagreeing. Tooling goes into a machine. Oh, I see you're disagreeing. Yeah, we've had this conversation, but I disagree with you, Jordy, because one time I heard that a fixture is something that goes into tooling, or tools are what go into tooling. But if you actually break down, like we were saying in the this is the way to say it. We were talking about the different terms. And whether it's a machine tool, which is a word that's a term that's used, or whether it's tooling or a fixture or a jig, a lot of times it's what generation you're from, what they call it. So it's not universal. I mean, and honestly, Jordy, if you have an authoritative reason why the tool and the tooling, but it's hard to say what is a tool and what is tooling, or where the line stops, I guess I'll say. Maybe I'm just getting into semantics, but Jordy says overthinking this. Yes, exactly. I'm overthinking it too. Neil says a lathe can be considered a machine tool. No. Yes, exactly. There you go, Neil. You're on it. Confetti says I'm back. Nice. And Neil says a machine tool that uses cutting tools. I've been getting ready for LARP. Lol. Okay. No, we all LARP on some level, right? Setup is key. Feeds and speeds. Yep. And then if you're into printing like I am, tooling also has a key role there, as well as setup and make, what they call in printing, we call it make ready, getting all the parts to line up and not hit each other, which is the same thing in machining. A machine is a machine and a tool is a tool. Machine implies complexity, power sources. Tool is more singular. I see where you're going with that, but it gets complicated because, yeah, I mean, the argument can be made. I see it. We should continue this conversation. And a hammer isn't really a machine unless you consider it a part of you. Yeah, I can see that. Drake says, you talked me into it. I'll be taking a trip to Goshen to meet you all. As soon as I have dollars, I certainly will be picking a 450. I don't see a lot of them in Indy. Wonderful. Well, we We look forward to seeing you. Great. Vaughn says, I agree with the small bike argument. I'm trading my Janus 450 for a Griffin 250 to get a lighter, more maneuverable bike. Wonderful. That's a different switch. Most people go the other way, but you're a real rambler. Keith says, I found my visits to Turtletop fascinating. Not only the demonstrations, but the machines and tooling. Well, you're going to find it even more fascinating. We've made all kinds of overhauls back here. And the whole shop is operating more like tooling and less like a random collection of tools. Tooling or jigs. All right, Jordy. I'm confused now. Duke Berryman, are we posting sailboats? Yes, Duke. I don't know if you're a sailor or I don't recognize the name, but if you a Prindle 8.2 catamaran. Yeah, sailboats. If you have a sailboat, post it up in your vehicles, please, everybody. If you have a Scamp or a catamaran or a sailboat, I'd love to hear it. I mean, I guess I should list my boats. Next week, I should make a note to list my sailboats. They're all small. I mean, aside of LARPing as an adult. Yeah, right. Racing the Sun, 9. Okay, well, I'm over schedule. Thank you all very much for 60 of you all still viewing 7 minutes after the hour for joining for another really rambling Ramblestream. Maybe we should talk more about tooling. I think I'm going to be thinking more about this. And Jordy, I'd like your continued thoughts as well as Neil and Jeff. So we can continue the conversation. I think it's valuable, but it's been fun hanging out with you all. This week, I'm headed to Las Vegas Wednesday at some point to go to the AIM Expo. I'm probably rescheduling my trip, but heading out to AIM Expo in Las Vegas and then the one motorcycle show where we will be displaying Joel's Griffin 450 #1 for industry acclaim. And then I'll be heading back. I'm sure I will be checking out all the booths from all the different suppliers and OEMs, and I'll have a report back for you all. Next Monday, it will be the AIM Expo One Show special. So it'll be a big slideshow, and I hope you all will join me then. Thank you very much for joining, and I will see you on Ramblestream number 69. Till then, bye-bye.